It's not a bird, it's not a plane, it's Superhero Slate. It's a modern podcast where we talk about everything that's great, like movies, TV, superheroes. It's Superhero Slate. Oh yeah.
Hello everyone and welcome to Superhero Slate, the show where we run down the latest superhero entertainment news.
We love TV, movies, and superheroes, so let's talk it all out.
My name is Chris.
And my name is Mike.
And this week, we're getting into the holiday spirit with a merry little Batman trailer.
We're getting into it much like Damian gets into his little suit.
Yeah, that's right. And so, we'll talk about it, but I just love the age-old song, Mike, of Jingle Bells, Batman Smells being used.
Oh, I thought you were going to say the Christmas song that, what was it, like Lil Wayne that's in the trailer or something?
Oh,
like
yeah,
that?
no, I didn't touch on that at all. You got me there. But did you know that Madam Web's trailer makes us think about that time when our mom was in the Amazon researching spiders?
You know what? I feel like everyone's mom, takes that trip down to the Amazon at some point in time, and we thank them for that.
Yeah, spiders need research, especially ones in the Amazon. So we're going to talk about Madam Web's first trailer in extensive detail, I feel, later. It's going to be great. We got some Fantastic Four casting rumors for The Last of Us. Wink, wink. Hint, hint. No, we'll talk. It's a pun. We'll play on that. We'll play with that later. Anyway, but anyway, we've got a pretty good episode today. I'm pretty excited about this news. We have not talked about any of this this week. I feel, except for the Madam Web trailer, because who the hell didn't talk about it this week and or at least make fun of it and cringe. But anyway, I feel we've got a pretty good week, Mike. How's your weekend been?
Yeah, I was like scrolling through the notes and I was like, oh, this is pretty stacked. We got a lot to talk about here.
Yeah.
So I will not mince any words. I will not waste any time. I watched two things this weekend. One of them is actually our first bullet point in the notes, so I'll wait to bring that up. But the new Scott Pilgrim show dropped on Netflix this weekend, and I didn't really know much about it beyond like the first trailer that came out a while ago. I didn't really look into it. I didn't know exactly what the strategy was, how much were they adapting. We all knew that the original film voice cast was coming back, and this was executive produced by Edgar Wright, but I'm pretty sure that's just kind of one of those things where they're attaching his name to it more than anything else, but I wouldn't be surprised if he was, reading scripts. He's subscribed to it. Yeah, I'm sure he subscribes to Netflix on YouTube.
Yeah.
But
he
like,
probably
I
doesn't
don't
pay for it. They probably give it to him for free.
Like, I don't want to say much, and I don't want to spoil anything, but there is a fun turn that happens at the end of the first episode. Like, the first episode is kind of luring you in with a sense of familiarity, especially with the voices. And I never really dove into the comics all that much. I read the first couple volumes, but it was a while ago, and I got to them after I fell in love with the film. So my head is all kind of a mishmash of panels from the comics, but also iconic shots from the film, which is really Edgar Wright's style, just dripping all over it. So you're kind of like, well, what do you attribute to Scott Pilgrim? What do you attribute to Edgar Wright? What do you contribute to like Brian Lee O'Malley, who created Scott Pilgrim? So it's just this weird like mental exercise watching this first episode. But a cool thing happens at the end of the first episode that kind of pivots and shows you where you're gonna go with the rest of the series. So I'm 2 episodes in. I'll get around to watching the other 6 episodes. I'm not in a rush to complete them, but the animation looks beautiful. The art style is really, really fun. I love the thick line styles of like Brian Lee O'Malley's art. There's a lot of action in the second episode, and they board and compose that really, really great. So I think there's a lot to look for here, but it is very strange. Like, I also downloaded Letterboxd this weekend, which I'm sure a ton of people are already familiar with. And I was like, I should start doing one of these things. And once I got into the flow state of like reviewing these movies that they were just continually putting in like a carousel, like I got into this flow of like, okay, what's a 4 movie? What's a 4.5? What's a 5? And I got the Scott Pilgrim. I'm like, oh, this is a 4.5. Like, this is a big movie for me. So it's very strange. All of these different adaptations. Netflix had this like little reel that they shared the other day where it was like a triptych of panels from the comic book, shots from the film and then shots from the cartoon, the animation that just came out this weekend. And it is crazy. Yeah, there's 3 different interpretations of this same story now. So a lot to take in. Obviously, if you're a Scott Pilgrim fan, you got to check it out.
Yeah. How long are the episodes? Are they 45 minutes or?
Oh, no. They're definitely in the 30 like range.
Okay. Yeah. You just never know, right? These, there's no set time for episodes anymore on streaming. You're like, well, are they a 30-minute? Are they 40, 50? Could they be an hour? So that's good to know that they're a little shorter. That seems more palatable. This is not on my radar at all. I have nothing against Scott Pilgrim. I really like the movie. But I'm just, this might be something whenever I'm out of other things to do and want to binge watch a day. Last Thanksgiving, my wife reminded me we both got really sick like Thanksgiving weekend, so we didn't go anywhere, we didn't do anything. We laid under blankets and binge watched Andor that we've been putting off for months. So that was really nice. So I might put this in my pocket for one of those winter sick days that inevitably comes around.
Good idea.
But the other thing is I downloaded because I'm very excited for, Mike, and I'm glad you watched it because I had no idea if you were going to watch it or not. And that is Monarch: Legacy of Monsters, the first thing here in our show notes.
Yeah, well, it's all thanks to you, Chris, in your Plex server, because I canceled my Apple Plus the other day, and because it's like just nothing was like coming out, and I wasn't really watching it. I was like, oh, and they were raising their price too, like right conveniently when this came out. So I was just like, I think I've spent like $40 on this so far and haven't watched anything the last couple months. And then, of course, I forgot that this was coming out. But I was like, this has a little Plex server set up.
In Monarch: Legacy of Monsters, it's a gamble, right? Because, there's Godzilla, Skull Island, the second Godzilla movie, which people are divided on, and then there's Godzilla vs. Kong. There's Godzilla X Kong coming out. There was that cartoon, Skull Island on Netflix a couple months ago. This is a gamble. It could be good, it could be bad. Are you willing to resubscribe for a couple months to watch this, or possibly watch it for free? But yes, Monarch: Legacy of Monsters on Apple TV Plus. The first 2 episodes dropped together, so this is not a binge model. They're definitely dripping this out here. And I've got to say, we didn't talk about it, but I actually had a really good time with this show so far. It is not the story I thought it was going to tell. It's definitely got a very different spin with the main characters. It takes place, as we've talked about before, in 2 different timelines, in the 50s and then in 2015, like kind of post Godzilla 1 so far. And I think I have the feeling, because they keep saying 2015, Mike, we're going to get a time skip to like modern time eventually, because if it's set in 2015, you don't have to keep reminding us all the time, I guess, but maybe they're just doing it to play it safe. But I definitely did not expect the family drama. This is more like a drama thriller more than anything else, more than I thought it would be along the way. I thought there's some action scenes. What's the guy from Workaholics? Anders Holm, is that his name? I believe. Is one of the guys. He's great. I've only know him from Workaholics, so this was great to see him.
He's the young John Goodman, right?
There's I don't think he's John. Is that John Goodman's character?
I think I think he's John. Oh. So this is a whole nother thing. Like it's so funny. They construct a show around a timeline as if that there's an avid fan base out there that can follow any of this. Like they do some flashbacks to Godzilla destroying the bridge in San Francisco, and I'm like, to its credit, the cinematography of this show is top notch to the point where I was like, was this flashback from the movie that I barely remember? Because these movies are very disposable, right? They're very big, very grandiose, lots of spectacle, but there's not a lot to latch on to character wise. You're like, oh yeah, Bryan Cranston's in one of them.
Aaron Taylor Johnson was in it as
Quicksilver's in one of them, but all the characters die, or they don't carry over to other movies. You know,
I mean, the Godzilla movies, the first one you mentioned Bryan Cranston, Aaron Taylor Johnson, but beyond that, I know Millie Bobby Brown was in the second one, whatever, wasn't she? And her
isn't she? Is she in the one with Mecha Godzilla?
Yeah. Oh well, she's in the first one. The second Godzilla, Legacy of Monsters, or whatever it was, with the 3-headed one, the Hydra looking dude, and then Mecha, and then she was in Godzilla v Kong. It carried over because they took that stupid tunnel to Japan or whatever, and then they have, like you mentioned, Kong Skull Island, which was made with in the past. It's got Tom Hiddleston and Brie Larson in it, and John Goodman returning as well. There's a lot that they're playing with timelines is really weird, because the first episode technically takes place, the past version takes place after the second episode's flashbacks, right?
Yeah.
So
but
like
of course the show, it also kicks off in the 70s in Skull Island, so it's like you're oscillating quite a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And what is cool is, yes, there's Godzilla, but like I really enjoyed the Mutos. Like we're seeing different ones, right, in this. Like they're not the big Godzilla level, but they're fairly large throughout this. So like I think that's really cool. Like you said, it's a top notch, it's a premium quality show to watch, right? I don't feel like they skimped on anything throughout this. So I'm having a good time. I actually look forward to catching up the rest of this season as it comes out. And it's what I think is fun. And Mike, you tell me what you think. But we have Kurt Russell and his son Wyatt Russell playing the different era versions of the same character, which I thought was a really cool thing.
Yeah, I'm sure. I feel like at some point in time that must have happened historically in Hollywood, but I can't think of anything off the top of my head. So that is pretty fun. I feel like the temperament, the attitudes, the visuals in the face are pretty similar. So I thought that was neat.
They just had to tell Wyatt Russell, like, just act like your dad does in all of his movies. just act like him, and he's pulling it off pretty well, I think. So, for that.
Like I was saying, like it feels very high budget, right? No wonder Apple increased the price of their subscription. I don't know if they're actually in Tokyo when they're doing those scenes over there, but it feels like they're in Tokyo. I love when they went and did that little underground drill. I love the signage of Godzilla that's around there, because it just feels very real and sterile, even though it's like this big fictitious beast that we're all very familiar with. They're taking it real and serious. The cab drive in with like the missiles, and the guy just thinks it's all a big hoax.
It was all CGI, and he's got a podcast you can listen to.
So I do like how they're approaching almost like this, like what if with our society, of what if this actually happened. So there's a lot happening there. I feel like some of the episodes drag a little bit, and I feel like it's just uniquely the problem that this universe has, where we want to see big monsters, and they have to unfortunately fill a lot of the time without big monsters. So at least the family dynamics are interesting. Like, I mean, I wasn't expecting the secret second family, that's set up very early on.
It's like literally like the first 5 minutes. They're like, "Hey, this is your story going forward for the present day. Good luck with it," kind of deal.
And I don't know exactly how much Matt Fraction is involved. One of our kind of favorite comic book writers, but he is an executive producer, and I think he has created. He was very instrumental in getting this off the ground. Early on. So I know there are photos of him after they announced it, of him like building cities, like cardboard cities, of like how he wants to, like how the monsters will move and how they need to handle some of the action scenes. So I think he was pretty involved with that stuff. I really want to I want to see more monsters, obviously, too, but I really need somebody out there on YouTube to cut together like a recap directly related to what's going on in this story, right? I think it's going to take another week or so for someone to digest the storylines that have been set up in these first 2 episodes, and then kind of create me a recap video, because I'm not going back and watching these. Like when they show John Goodman like throw that bag into the ocean at the beginning, I was like, wait, when was the last time we saw John Goodman? I was like, I'm not queuing up Kong Skull Island to figure out the last time we saw John Goodman in that movie. So I need somebody else to do the work for me.
I mean, and I think for people who haven't watched it, that's a good movie to watch. I would recommend it before you jump into this.
Yeah, that one's solid. But overall, it's always nice to see a lot of money on screen, especially when you're paying a streaming service for it. So I'm not upset. I'll keep an eye out.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to keep up. And I think the other thing is, what is cool about this, you only need to see, so far, we know this, Godzilla and Kong Skull Island, because they've not touched on the legacy of monsters or whatever, King of Monsters, and then the Godzilla versus Kong at all, right? Because it's set in 2015. The other 2 movies haven't happened yet. So I would say you're actually pretty well versed if you just watch those 2 movies going into it. But I know that first Godzilla is definitely I wouldn't say a drag, but like you don't get a lot of monster right early on. It takes a while before Godzilla gets the thing. But I'm enjoying this. I didn't think, after skipping the animated Skull Island TV show, I was like, this could be awful. This could be really, really bad. But I'm glad they're they're taking a pretty good approach to it. And I'm excited to see how it pays off. Do you know off your top of your head how many episodes this are?
This one feels
like a 6 or 8?
6 to 8, or there's no way they're pumping out like. I would be surprised if there's 10 of these slotted at the budget that it's going into these.
Yeah, let me see here. I'm going to pull it up here. No, there are 10 episodes.
Woo, dang.
Yeah. And Matt Fraction wrote the next to last episode as well, just to give you a heads up.
That's great.
So they've got some really cool stuff here. Very, very excited. The Chris Black, I think he's maybe the showrunner, I think. He's also directing the last episode, but then they have a list here on Wikipedia as depicted in Godzilla, as depicted in Kong Skull Island. So they got a little bit going. So yeah, I'd recommend it. Maybe wait till all 10 are done if you don't want to pay for the full 3 months of Apple TV Plus. You need to get this, but very, very high quality show, and we'll keep you posted as it wraps up in January. Moving right along here, Mike, we touched briefly on the Coyote versus Acme movie last week that Warner Brothers was shelving. It's mostly completed, 99% done, to get a tax break. But the movie is no longer being shelved after outcry from fans and essentially lawmakers for this. So it'll be shopped around for distribution. And so we will probably... I'm thinking see this on a streaming service. I don't think if they're doing this, they're not going to put it in theaters. That's what I'm thinking. But I was very interesting. I had a tweet here. It looks like my link was out. But like there are Congress members out there calling for inquiry into Warner Brothers on all of these tax breaks for shelving completed movies that they've been doing. They're like saying it's like burning a house down and then for the insurance money kind of deal.
Yeah, it's like I'm sure that they have very talented lawyers at Warner Brothers that are probably like, yeah, this is fine. We can still do this right now. But at the same time, when you run a big corporation, you don't want extra lawmaker eyes on you if you don't need them. So yeah, you could get a tax write-off for this one movie, but it seems like, let's just put it out there. If there was like if Zavzlov had the capability to play 4D chess, which I highly doubt that he does, he could be like, I'm going to try to cancel this movie and make everyone mad and then just drive up all press is good press. And then now I can actually sell it to somebody because that's probably what's going to happen, right? If I was like Ted Sarandos over at Netflix, be like, I think I actually might buy this because this has broken through the news cycle.
They said Netflix, Apple, Paramount, maybe Peacock.
I think Prime is also in the mix.
Like everyone's like gonna go watch this. And again, it was co-written by James Gunn and stars John Cena, like two huge names right now, right? Like it's silly, but again, like I said, they have good lawyers, but when the people who make the laws are looking at it and like, well, maybe we don't want you to ever do this again, like they're gonna play a little more softball.
Yeah, last week after it was canceled, there was a lot of kind of insiders close to the movie that were like, we don't understand why they would do this. Like, this movie is like so good. It's amazing. It has like a nice emotional heartstrings at the end. And I took all of that with like a grain of salt, right? Like, I'm just not going to trust a bunch of people. Like, if I worked on something for a bunch of years and then it was like canceled,
you become emotionally attached to it and it's your baby kind of thing.
Yeah, and you don't speak ill of the dead, right? So I don't think necessarily that. I mean, also too, like we just went through a summer where like Tom Cruise told us like The Flash was the best movie he's ever seen, right? So like you can't.
James Gunn said that. Tom Cruise just watched it. So, but like the other part of this is the lashback from Hollywood A-listers canceling meetings with Warner Brothers Discovery after this because they were like, well, we don't know if our project will ever actually be released because a lot of these people sign contracts with residuals, right? And that's why they're canceled because like we're gonna have to pay more out in the long run if a movie's successful or getting streamed or views. So I mean Warner Brothers was one of the biggest movie studios in forever, and right now I guess they just maybe won back Christopher Nolan after the Tenet stuff, right? He did Oppenheimer was somewhere else, I believe.
Maybe like, Paramount. I don't quite remember.
I don't know who did it, but either way, like he's coming back around to them after their commitment to him. But I'm like, yeah, you're just gonna make everybody else mad, right? Kind of deal. So I'm glad this movie's getting some. I like Coyote or Warner Brothers. What's it called? Looney Tunes, Merry Melodies, right? Those are some of my fondest memories growing up. And everybody knows, Wile E. Coyote in the Roadrunner stories, Mike. So, pretty excited to hopefully get to see this in the next year. On the other side, though, of Warner Brothers trying to cancel things, they actually renewed Harley Quinn for another 5th season on Max. So, the little show that could, if you will. I think that's great.
Yeah, that one's going strong. Good for them.
Yeah, I know they're getting the Kite Man spinoff. We talked about that a little bit. I've not seen anything on that.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
They started, I think, I heard the last season ended with a Birds of Prey kind of homage with the characters kind of appearing in the show now. So, yeah, that's good for them. I'm glad people are tuning in for this and that show animation is getting its due on the streaming service, right? Even if it's in that. And we're gonna keep moving through here. James Gunn's been out. He's out saying things, doing things. And one of the confirmations for his DC universe this week is that Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, has a writer in Anna Nogueira. I think I pronounced that right. I had to look it up earlier. And she actually originally wrote a version of the script that spun out of The Flash with Supergirl Sasha Calle, who was in that. So they were impressed with her work. They hired her again to write a new script, essentially. Not reuse her script, write a brand new one for their version of Supergirl in this universe.
Yeah, I wonder. I mean, I would assume if you're James Gunn, this is kind of a move to like, you're a great and talented creator. We don't want to lose you just because this universe fell apart. Please stay on. You know Supergirl very, very well. I got to imagine there's a new actress attached to it. Like, they're not, unfortunately, whether she was great in The Flash or not, that universe is dead now. Yeah. So you got to press on forward with you.
Yeah, they don't want to refer back to that. And they also hired Andy Muschietti, again, who directed The Flash, to do it's Batman, right? The Batman movie. So James Gunn, they're at least, they're not burning bridges with the people making the content before they took over. And Andy Muschietti, despite The Flash being mostly a Batman movie that kind of really didn't do anything at the same time, I think he's a great director. Right? He did the It movies. He had a vision. He really stuck to it. So that's cool. James Gunn also describes Supergirl as a star-spanning tale. And the image he shared was Supergirl on like an alien planet, sitting like a beach on an alien planet kind of thing in her Supergirl outfit. So I really think this is going to be like a space set movie. Like this, she's not going to be on Earth as Supergirl. Like she's going to be the one out in the cosmos, if you will.
Yeah, I mean that's not a bad way to approach it, right? You're going to have Clark set on Earth. We're going to be kind of introducing the world of this new DC universe and Earth. Mm-hmm. And then he can do his thing like he did with Guardians, right? When he introduced the Guardians, totally detached from Earth. They only had like one shot at the very beginning that showed Peter getting
Earth exists
abducted. Yeah, and then we're out running around in space. So I think that could be a fun. I'm curious to see what happens though. Like, how do we interpret space through the lens of DC when I feel like we have a pretty solid understanding of maybe what space looks like and how it functions in the MCU? I'm curious if maybe there's a unique take there.
Yeah, and obviously with the Green Lantern stuff that we know they're working on, they're trying to set some foundations, right, to pick that up too. So whatever they do, they're gonna have to, hopefully do it right the first time and kind of stick to that those rules. My theory, my not my fear, but my thoughts are it's gonna be very similar to Guardians, right? Like people, and because James Gunn's a huge prosthetic man, probably just a lot of humanoid people with prosthetics on like kind of rundown planets out in space, if you will. But I'd be pleasantly surprised if he did something different on the way. The other thing he shared this week is back to, like you said, Superman legacy. María Gabriela de Faría, who was an actress in Deadly Class, has been cast as the engineer Angela Spica from The Authority. We knew that they're also getting a movie in there, and she's been noted as a villain, but I think that could just be her comic book version is a villain. So if they adapt her to The Authority, she may be more antagonistic than a villain, if you will.
Yeah, I did a little bit of Googling here. I'm just kind of looking at the character. There's some side-by-sides with the actor. And it does make me think, when you're building like a universe like from the ground up, right? I wouldn't be surprised if James Gunn or Peter Safran are nerdy enough to be like the engineer like super fans, right? But I do wonder sometimes where it's just like, oh, I want like a character to do this in my movie. I'm gonna go look through the DC like kind of archives and just find a character that either looks cool or I can reinvent, and I'll slot them into that role. Because that's kind of what it feels like, right? Like you're just, and I don't think it's necessarily bad, right? I would think the same thing kind of happened in Guardians of the Galaxy as well. Like I just need like a character, any character. Well, this one's fun, and since nobody's really precious to them, and they can be molded into whatever I want, let's do it.
Yeah, and I would say knowing that I guess to be like a devil's advocate kind of against you, like knowing that they have the authority, I feel like they have a better idea of this, kind of what they're doing rather than picking someone random, right? Because they want to use the authority, and she's was introduced in the Authority comic books. So they may be pulling maybe a different, like, the Guardians we met in the movies was not the Guardians from the comic books, right? That came, they made those match later. So like maybe they're like, okay, well, this is the characters we need for the Authority. And there's been probably dozens of characters. Pick the ones you need to make your story work, kind of deal. But she is essentially a character with nanites in her blood, and making herself look metal, and can I create anything out of those metal objects, if you will. I would say a little bit kind of like a Bloodshot meets Blue Beetle, maybe, if you will.
I can see that.
So this is fine. I think this is great. News is information. They said they're still shooting for July 2025 for the Superman Legacy. So it sounds like we're going to be on track to get James Gunn's Peter Safran's universe here in 2 years, Mike. A little less than 2 years. So we'll do that. The last DC bit of news we have starts off our trailer park of the episode, where we have several trailers to look at. And this Merry Little Batman. We've discussed this several times before. Very stylized animated version of a Batman story where Batman and his son Damian Wayne exist, and it's a Christmas story. Batman, his dad has gone out for something and can't get home in time for Christmas, so it's up to Damian to stop the villains. The first thing I thought of this, Mike, and I don't know if you're familiar, have you ever seen Bat Metal, the videos, the animated videos?
No, I haven't.
So these guys, this group of people took Death Clock songs, right, from Metalocalypse, and animated Batman to them, a couple of them. And if you look up Bat Metal, like the animation style of Bat Metal, like the I would say it's kind of Ren and Stimpy, but like with like I don't know how to explain their frames of the people. Like they're very heavy in the chest and very tight, tiny in the legs. But like there's like some weird ugliness to like Alfred a little bit. Like they didn't make him look pretty. I don't know, but it very feels like that. But the thing that takes me out of this the most is how the voices don't line up with what I had envisioned for Batman's Damian or the villains at all. And this is not a complaint. It's just, boy, was that like a hard shake whenever I started watching this. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I love how they just went nuts with it. It's funny how Batman gets the benefit of the doubt, but Aquaman never does. This is almost exactly in line with the strategy of what they did with that Aquaman series of shorts, or maybe it was a singular short, like 1 or 2 years ago, I think. But that one was kind of coming off the, I don't want to say controversy, because it's such a minority of people who care about this stuff, but right. the wacky like Thundercats like reboot, right? So there was a very small amount of like adult nerds that should have just looked past this, of like, oh, I can't believe they're doing this to Aquaman. Like, this is the exact same thing they're doing to Batman, right? But like nobody cares because it's Batman, or maybe all of those people just fell down a well and we don't have to hear from them again. But I watched this, and Chris heard me firsthand on the microphone, catching up before we started recording, watching it. I earnestly chuckled a couple times, didn't I?
Yeah, there are, and I agree. There are a couple of good laughs in this. This is really funny, very wholesome content, if you will, for Batman. Mm-hmm. As I mentioned, they do the Jingle Bells, Batman Smells, Robin laid an egg kind of thing. The funny part to me is Batman wearing a beard, and like that's like a sticking point through this trailer. It's like you have the bat razor. He's like, I think I'm gonna keep it. I'm like, okay, that's fine, I guess. Like you didn't have to explain it. And then Alfred looking like he's literally pulled out of a Ren and Stimpy like short kind of thing.
There was like a quick shot, I think of Poison Ivy too, where she almost looks elderly.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's like intentional, like all of the villains in Batman are older now since he has a son, or it could be almost like, if you think about it maybe a little bit more indirectly, like to Damian Wayne, a little kid trying to fit into his Batsuit, everyone looks like old to him. So either way, this looks fun. The art style looks very dynamic. Is this like a singular thing, like a movie? It's not like a mini series or short.
It is it's a one-time movie, and it is will be on Prime, not Max. This is one of the movies they passed on distribution on Max and went to Prime.
I just assumed it was Max, but no, this looks fun. I'm gonna watch this if I can remember.
and it comes out December 8th. This is gonna be something I'm gonna download. I assume this can't be less than 90 minutes by a long shot.
Oh, I would be shocked if it's over an hour. This kind of looks like a 45-minute thing.
Yeah, like a little one-off kind of deal. Mm-hmm. But it is funny. Damien gets to get his own bat suit. I was trying to pull up. I pull up on their Amazon page, but it doesn't tell me anything else. It just gives me the assets. I'm like, I don't need to see the assets of this. But yeah, it will be fun. This will be something I'll put in the old Christmas watch kind of thing. So check out that trailer there. All right, so let's dive into the topic of the week, Mike. The thing I sent you, so Madam Web. We're gonna talk about Madam Web. They're threatening us with this movie still, and it's actually for real this time. I sent you a leaked logo and like description of the trailer the day before this came out.
We can just start with the logo. What an awful logo! Like, as somebody who is, and I'll go ahead. Hold on, I gotta pull Madam Web logo. I gotta pull it.
Let me just add some context. It's the lowest effort logo, because I'm not gonna say it's bad, because I feel like I would see this on a comic book. Like, literally, they tore it off a comic book, but it's the lowest effort. Like, I don't want to bash the person who did it, but obviously it was corporate demanded. You need to make the logo look like this, and they were just like, yeah, absolutely.
Anytime you ever see anything come out of a film studio, never assume the individual artist making it had any control over it. And coming from a professional design background, I hate this logo. They just we got to make it the most Spider-Man-y thing possible, and we can't put Spider-Man in it anywhere. And all of the letters are just overlapping, but then weirdly enough, on this second A, they're chopping off the left-hand leg of it, which doesn't make any sense.
Some of it's three-dimensional, some of it's not three-dimensional letters, right? The ones in the middle. Yeah. And do you see the Statue of Liberty?
Oh, yeah. I mean, they don't want you to miss that. And then they put you got to know this is in New York, right? Even though half of the trailer seems to be either at a diner or in the woods. Yeah. And then they put webs all over it. But they at least have the webs overcast the letters, make it more of a composition and less of a anyway, this is bad. We're focusing, but this is bad. This was a bad start already.
Yeah, this was number one, and this isn't even the worst thing about this. We'll talk about what I think is the worst thing here in a little bit. We'll probably agree a little bit, because it also includes spider webs. So Madam Web, the trailer has dropped, and listener to the show, friend of ours, Patrick, he sent me. He actually sent it to me. He said he had a slow day at work, and he was like, I'm gonna get to it before you do. I'm like, you do that, because I'm not gonna run to watch this kind of trailer.
You sent it to me, and
I knew you were gonna wake up to it. I was like,
it was welcoming to me, and we were. I don't remember, on that specific day of the week, we had to wake up extra early to get somewhere. I don't remember what the deal was. So it was the sun hadn't even risen yet. Yeah. And we were just trying to get ourselves together. And I'm like, if I don't watch this trailer right now, I'm probably not going to get to it until the end of the day. So I'm in bed half awake with my phone horizontally right in my face. Oh, yeah. What am I doing?
Yeah. So he sent me the first one of the reactions is to this. That because I want to talk about the plot, but people going to be honest, the plot itself sounds pretty interesting. Time travel, Groundhog Day in a superhero movie, but the acting and script are horrendous. And I'm like, actually, that's a great way to describe this. It's got a great idea to it, right? A supervillain who is trying to kill his adversaries, but because he has time travel to kill superhero adversaries before they become superheroes. Fun idea, but everything about this from start to finish looks awful, and I can't even put my finger on it. Exactly what's kind of going on here. There are literally.
We got a lot to.
What do we even start with this, man? I don't even know.
A lot to digest. So I think the biggest takeaway I have from this trailer is the villain and his suit.
There it is.
Right?
That is the worst part in this entire thing to me. His name is Ezekiel Sims, and he's playing a villain. But like when they show what he's wearing, it's essentially like a cosplay Spider-Man outfit.
Yeah, it makes me wonder his origin or something must be really, really built into Peter Parker or Spider-Man in some way. And there's got to be some sort of explanation of why the suit looks like the way it does, right? At least at the end of the Flash movie that came out this year, when you kind of get to see the evil version of the Flash, that's all like, he's got a bunch of stuff stuck in him. He's all like gruesome and grotesque, right? At least we kind of get to see an origin of that, of like, I actually thought that was kind of cool how he ended up looking that way, because he just kept failing and failing and failing, and kept getting all these things impaled in him. But this is just like, what did he just like, oh, I really don't like Spider-Man, so I'm going to go home and make this suit that looks like Spider-Man?
If you look him up, he doesn't have a suit in the comic books. Like, that's the weird part about this. They have given him a suit for no reason. Because he looks like the guy on the train, right? A business suit, no shoes on, kind of, very kind of like brooding. But like, he does have some Spider-Man powers, but it looks like he has Spider-Man, like he has Madam Web's I can see the future powers, and he's going to be stopped by these 3 very specific Spider Women that they have in here, who we've seen. I thought I put their names in here, but we have literally 2 Spider-Womans and then 1 Anya Corazon, who is a different Spider-Woman, if you will. So what was cool about that, we kind of saw their costume accurate outfits in that Zack Snyder Army of the Dead blur effect, right? Like a daydream effect. So Sydney Sweeney as Spider-Woman proper in a black suit. I don't know the names of the other 2 ladies, but one has the arms, like the mechanical arms coming out of her back. I thought that was a really cool look. Couldn't quite get the third one nailed down on what her outfit was, but
it makes you wonder: is it a bait and switch? Because I would not put this past Sony to be like, these are just like potential futures or maybe even flashbacks that we don't really get to fully see, or is this the big third act culmination where kind of they all come together to fight Ezekiel in some way? I would say it's compelling to finally see a version of these characters in suits in live action, right? I feel like Marvel is still quite a few years away from doing something like this. So even though Sony often sacrifices story to speed run everything else, it is visually cool to see. I will give it that. And then also, I've said this before on the podcast many, many times, with this Sony universe, I just have no dog in the fight. I have no stocks purchased in the performance of these movies. As of where I'm watching an MCU movie, there's always a part of me that's just like, come on, please be good. Let's right the ship. Let's get this going again. I have too much of my life built into this universe. I do this podcast every week. Please give me something good. But at least with this one, it almost kind of just feels like a sandbox or like, a dev environment, right? When you're like making a website or an app, like just throw whatever you can at it. I don't care. No one cares. We're not publishing this.
Well, it's like a video game company wants to make a licensed game, but they can't get the license, so they just have to use what they have, right? Like we want to make a Spider-Man movie. Who do we have? Not Spider-Man. Okay, shit. What are we gonna do? Who do we have? We have 3 different 2 Spider-Womans and a Spider-Girl. Let's do it. How can we bring them together? A lady named Madam Web. So I think Dakota Johnson, she's, again, a paramedic who has clairvoyant abilities. We saw, what's his name from Parks and Rec? And
Adam Scott.
Adam Scott briefly in the trailer. They say he's Ben Parker. I'm sure he is, but we saw him briefly in the trailer. I don't think that's going to be a huge sticking point from what I can tell. But it looks like Cinderweb can view moments in time, or maybe she can travel back to herself. It seems very similar to Loki, right? The last season of Loki, a little bit, if I'm going to be honest.
I am kind of curious, if, because there is talks and murmurs of Andrew Garfield returning as Spider-Man in the Sonyverse in some given way. And if we are potentially connecting it to this Madam Web movie in some way, would this be the version of Ben Parker that raises Spider-Man's dad that becomes like a scientist, right? That works for Oscorp, I think that's what it was. It's been a long time since I've seen
he wouldn't raise
movies.
Ben Parker. He'd be his brother. Because that's Uncle Ben.
Uncle. Oh, yeah, so that changes things because that means we could meet Peter's father theoretically in the Madam Web
don't give him
movie.
any in credits ideas, Mike. Stop giving them ideas. This people, if we can just sit here and describe it all day long. It sounds cool when you sit and think about it or say some of this out loud, but the dialogue, specifically the line that everyone has roasted entirely too much this week, is I remember him. He was studying I remember him when my mom was killed studying spiders.
Oh, Chris, I have the exact
thank you.
quote.
Please do,
I
because
went
I
back
don't.
to the trailer. I turned on closed captioning. I wrote it down letter by letter, line by line. He was in the Amazon with my mom when she was researching spiders right before she died.
Oh my goodness!
All one run-on sentence
with no emotion, and I think Dakota Johnson's a great actress. I don't think it's on her, but like, woof. Remember the people who wrote Morbius wrote this movie. Like, we are not in for anything great.
Yeah. Incredibly cringy line read, so much exposition, so much to dump in that one line, but I don't think it's actually in the film. This really feels like something like we're trying to cut a trailer and get a point across. Can we bring somebody into the booth to add this?
Yeah.
So I don't think this is going to be sticking around, especially after what everyone's been saying about it.
If It's Morbin Time can get a life of its own, Mike, don't tempt them to put this in there because they will. Sony will get the wrong idea. Like, oh my God, this is everywhere. We should totally go put that in the movie when it's done. But this movie is coming out February 16th, Mike. We don't have to wait very long to see this. Less than like 2.5 months to go watch this. So they are really probably setting the bar pretty low for this. Probably based on star power for the actresses alone, right? Again, Dakota Johnson, Sydney Sweeney. I still need to go find those other people. I did pull up their comic book names here. I think actually, is it one of them is the voice actress in Wish, the lady who plays Maddie Franklin, Spider-Woman with the arms. I believe was that.
All right.
So like they're great. They're great actors, right? We talk about this all the time. And Sony, damn them for giving us hope with these Miles movies. Like every time we're like, oh God, they're going to do something awful. They give us this Into the Spider-Verse, and we're like, shit, well, you say you're not bought in. I'm like, I'm 5% bought in because of those movies. Like, I've got a little run in the game. But this is coming out in February, and then they're still also threatening us with Kraven next year as well, Mike, and Venom sometime.
Oh, boy, are they.
Yeah. Is this... this isn't the nail in the Sony coffin, but boy, they're gonna keep trying. This is not giving me any hope for fucking the Zelda movie. Like, I hate to use such hard language, but like literally, Avi Arad is the producer on the Legend of Zelda movie, Mike, with Nintendo, and he's doing this stuff to us. So anyway, all right, we'll move on. Next trailer. Back to the holiday spirit, Mike. Back in the holiday spirit here. What If Season 2 trailer has released, even with a little bit of a teasing that Happy Hogan Saves Christmas episode going on here with the Christmas hats and the bells throughout the theme song kind of deal.
Yeah. If you don't remember, historically, Chris and I not incredibly jazzed about What If. I don't think either of us view it as required viewing. Yeah. We don't go out of our way to watch it. We don't hate that it exists. But it was nice to have a trailer for season 2. I feel like it got me a little bit more excited when I was much more pessimistic before. Yeah. Jeffrey Wright as the Watcher narrating it is just as cool as he was before. Kind of, he literally says he doesn't do like sequels, but he says there's more interesting things happening here.
Yeah, it sounds like there's something at the end of this that will tie into maybe Secret Wars or King Dynasty, right? Because it shows like the multiverse kind of fracturing there at the end.
That would be fun. In my opinion, that's the unique selling proposition of What If, is that it culminates to something at the end. If the first season of What If didn't all come together for that really cool, like, Infinity Gauntlet Vision fight, it wouldn't really have had much of a lasting impact if it did at all. So, and the release schedule seems like it's the most exciting thing, honestly.
Yeah, so this is dropping daily starting December 22nd. So we're going to have a new What If Season 2 episode. And I think, to me, my biggest complaints about Season 1 was, it was like, what if this person became this Avenger instead, right? Like, they were all just like, oh, what if this person did this? This seems to be more of like just brand new stories from the ground up. There's a shot here, I actually accidentally pulled it up at like 41 seconds, where it has the people from like who were like in the 90s. Like, we have like Peggy Carter. It was the Captain Marvel who's in Captain Marvel, who gave Carol her powers. Hank Pym as Ant-Man, Bill Foster as Giant Man, Tony Stark's dad, and then T'Chaka. And I'm like, oh, this is interesting. You never had those guys before. So I think this looks interesting. Really, really cool to touch on that stuff. But like, it's daily, right? We're gonna get stuff daily through the end of the year to get this out by the end of the year. So sooner than expected, but that's fine. I think, we talked about this. I would rather wait 9 days to watch this than 9 weeks to watch it, because I just wouldn't care enough after 9 weeks of that. Anything else that caught your eye here? I'm pretty excited to kind of watch it. I'm excited for Happy Hogan Saves Christmas. That looks like a fun little non-consequential jaunt.
Yeah, that could be fun. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah. In this animation style, now correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, does this look like Disney's new animation style overall? Like, it kind of, like, the way it looks reminds me of like that movie that came out, Wish, right? Or is coming out, Wish? Like, does it have that same vibe, or do you think that it's
I think it feels like this is just the style that they're going to stick to for Marvel animation. I don't perceive any blend over myself, but we'll have to wait and see.
Okay, all right, we'll do that. But yeah, anyway, check out the trailer, and we'll probably report back after the new year comes through to talk about it. All right, let's jump into this. We got some Marvel stuff for the rest of this. A lot of theory, a lot of rumors. So let's jump into some of these juicy ones. The first one is this means a lot to me. Robert Kirkman, creator of The Walking Dead and Invincible, has accidentally confirmed Stephen Young is playing the Sentry in the movie.
I love this for you, Chris.
Yes. His costume has also been described as yellow and blue from Robert Kirkman. And I'm like, because he was like, Steven, you always play yellow and blue suits. And Robert's like, well, what's Marvel going to do? Fire me? They can't, because I'm not hired by them. So
yeah, this was a really confusing headline earlier in the week, because I was like, wait, but Robert Kirkman's not doing anything with Marvel. How could he confirm it? I was very, very confused. I didn't understand what was happening. But then, it's all coming together now. So
yeah, he's good friends with Stephen Young, who voices, I guess, the character Invincible. So there's that.
Yeah.
I also saw another article real fast. Hold your thought. That about the Void in this movie is actually like a place the Thunderbolts have to go to, where that, instead of like a character, it's like a dimension that Robert creates, is the Void. That's like his evil energy rather than a person. I'm like, well, we'll see. I don't know. It's still early, but
I don't hate that idea overall necessarily. Though every time a new dimension or location is created in Marvel, it's just another one added to the list that is not properly categorized or described, in my opinion. But I'm curious of the physicality of Stephen Yeun. Obviously, his acting abilities are through the roof. This guy is amazing, right? So I think he's definitely has what it takes to bring a lot of dimension to the character. But I only bring up the physicality of it because, Chris, you tell me all the time that the Sentry is one of the most powerful beings in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
He was based on Superman, essentially, right? So like, he's got the build and stature and looks of muscularity of a Superman, right?
Yeah, but is there like a transformational quality to the character in a way? Is there kind of like a Shazam moment,
It depends on which book you read. So when you see him, normally he's in his buff state, but that's the Sentry, but really his human psyche is Robert Reynolds, who is a smaller, skinnier person. So yes, there are moments where he has transformative properties. And in the first book of the Sentry volume, he's in that state for most of the book because the world has forgotten who the Sentry was, because if they don't know who the Sentry is, then they don't know who the Void is, right? They're one and the same. Like, that's his I guess his split personality. The Void is the evil side of him. So if they don't know one, they don't know the other. So yeah, there are some transformative properties, but I could also see them just going straight as like the Dark Avengers run, where he was always in that powered up state, if you will, like a Super Saiyan. for those who understand that. So yeah, they can be both. There's going to be a lot of interpretations. They've done all this before in different books with him.
I mean, I'm not saying that he can't bulk up. We've seen people go nuts when they're in Marvel territory and bulk up.
He's got extra time. They keep delaying these movies, so he's got extra time to work out and get there.
Yeah. So, yeah. I don't know. I'm excited for you, Chris. Hopefully this goes better than the Inhumans did.
Yeah. God. Well, I hope so too. I'm just excited about all the merch, all the Sentry merch I'm going to be able to buy. Finally, because boy, you cannot find any of that anywhere. You show me where Sentry merch is, Mike, and I might buy it, but I'm not seeing any lately. But yeah. But jumping into one of the other hot topics this week, Fantastic Four. Everybody wants to know what Marvel is doing with the Fantastic Four. And the newest rumor, the newest hottest line is, the most thing people are believing is Pedro Pascal is heavily rumored to have signed on for Reed Richards in this movie.
Ooh, that's a big role. I would assume pay is not the issue, right? The rumor months and months ago was actors were turning down the role because they weren't getting the paycheck that they were looking for. Mm-hmm. There's no way you lowball Pedro Pascal. I mean... I would assume that he is topping the charts right now with his
offers
asks.
And stuff
Like I gotta assume he's going to be eclipsing like The Rock soon. I mean, I personally I think he has like already, but I don't know what it looks like down on paper, right? The Rock probably owns like 800 like fast food restaurants somewhere, because that's how these super rich people make their money, right? I don't know if Pedro Pascal is quite to that level.
He
just yet.
Rumored $600,000 per episode for Last of Us. So,
and Reed Richards, this is, I mean, all the Fantastic Four. These are going to be big contracts that last at least like a decade, right? That are going to be spanning many, many movies. Yeah. So I don't hate it. I don't hate this.
Yeah, a lot of people. There's a split online community. They're like, he's there's nothing against him. He's just in everything. People don't know if they could see him as a Reed Richards, right? After we have him in, obviously he was Game of Thrones, The Mandalorian, The Last of Us. Can he pull off a Reed Richards? Actors are actors. I believe they can do anything they put their minds to if they're a good actor. So he could probably do it, but can you pull the actor out of that role? It did bring up a lot. I think it respawned the John Krasinski as Reed Richards conversations again. But you can't make an actor take a role he doesn't want either. So it's very interesting. I can go either way. I just want a good story. I believe Marvel always casts good actors, Mike. I don't have any concerns with that. Their actors are always on par. Their costumes are always on par. I just want a good story, and I think that's going to be my concern with this movie going forward, no matter who they get in there. And that brings me to the second thing. It sounds like the story is going to have at least some mentioning or appearance of Galactus, because Javier Bardem is now being eyed for Galactus next to Antonio Banderas. So it sounds like they're maybe staying in a like a Hispanic actor role kind of here. I
mean, Bardem has a presence, right? And I feel like if you're going to be doing Galactus needs a presence on screen. And I
don't have any problem with either one of those, if I'm going to be completely honest, either.
Yeah, and like I always say, I'm always curious what scale they're going to do with Galactus. He's going to be gigantic. Can he literally eat the Earth? Like what's going on here? But
if they put Celestials in the Eternals, Mike, I think they could do it and not be left. Man, what about, we're going to see a Celestial Galactus punch out? Wouldn't that be fun? Like in space?
Whoa, that'd be cool. Yeah. I feel like maybe Galactus, judge, jury, executioner can be the type of guy that's just like, Earth, you've been getting up to way too much nonsense. I think I'm going to do the universe a favor by eating you, and prune you, if you will.
Well, I think there's also, and I mean, not to come back to the Eternals, there's a celestial body in there. Maybe I think Galactus was always known, sometimes in the comic books, for eating planets that had celestials in them. Because they would provide more power, nutrients, whatever, I don't know, whatever cosmic beings need. So if he knows there's one coming out of Earth, it could be on his radar as well, even though it's dead. So we'll see. The other big thing is here, they're looking to, I would say, gender swap Silver Surfer as an actress. I think, as long as the stories make sense, Silver Surfer is an alien. It can really be anybody they want to. It's not really like you're paying attention to the face. They are silver the whole time, right?
I mean, Silver Surfer, I mean, a very blank slate of a character, right? I don't think there's much of a humanistic origin to the character, right?
Correct.
Basically just like an ethereal being more than like something that used to have a family, right?
Yeah, well, the original person very much a looks like a Mr. Clean, like a very, like you mentioned, a blank slate male. So yes, absolutely. Before he got the cosmic power and created was the Silver Surfer, but like if they're going to be doing the Silver Surfer, they can still, it's going to be CG for most of it, right? They're not going to paint someone silver, so absolutely they can do whatever they want as long as they get a good person in that role and the story supports it. I don't care what gender the Silver Surfer is; they're an alien with a surfboard. Doesn't make sense either way at the end of the day. Lastly, Dr. Doom, obviously a Fantastic Four staple. They're throwing everything at this movie, Mike. Frontrunners include Mads Mikkelsen, who we might remember from Doctor Strange. Jason Clarke,
actor.
Yep, Jason Clarke. I know him from Terminator, maybe Genesis, and then I think he was also in the second Planet of the Apes movie. Recently.
He's kind of got that intense square face that I think could look cool under a helmet.
Yep. And then obviously actor Ralph Fiennes as Voldemort himself coming into this.
Oh, I mean all good directions.
Yeah. I think they all have their own unique standout things, but like again, you mentioned that presence, the voice, the intense stare. I think they all three have that. And if he's under a mask or has a disfigured face, Mads Mikkelsen could easily come back and play that role very simply.
I feel like out of everything that's kind of out there in the runway for Marvel, I think Doctor Doom is the single most exciting thing to me, right? Because I love the villain, because the villain is obviously Fantastic Four in origin, but Doctor Doom gets around in every like Marvel story arc that's like out there in the comic books. He's always like masterminding, he's kind of like an evil Tony Stark, if you will, very intelligent, has the capability to do whatever he wants.
Well, he's tech and magic based. And also so he's like the best of everything. You're like, yeah, he runs a kingdom. He's got Doctor Doom bots, and then he also practices magic. I'm like, what can't this guy do, right? So, I think he'd be fantastic in any role, and set him up as a long term thing, not a one off thing. So, absolutely agreed. But that's our Fantastic Four news. People are think that the casting will be announced sooner than later. I believe Matt Shakman is directing this, right? He was the WandaVision person, and he also has, I think, an EP on Monarch as well. I think I saw his name pop up on Monarch as well. So, so I'm very, very excited for. Yeah, he is a Monarch. So I'm very excited to see kind of what they kind of do with this and what we get. But speaking of Marvel Studios, a couple of things that popped up this week. They withdrew trademarks for a few properties, Mike, including Avengers Timeless Saga, Avengers Eternity Saga, Nomad, and Runaways New Era. Things that we'd speculate were probably in the works at some point years ago.
Yeah, there must be some sort of like rule where it's like if you don't use it, you lose it in some way, because we all know that whatever it costs to hold those trademarks, it be a drop in the bucket for a big company like Marvel. So they must be really confident they're really not going to use these.
Well, I would say these were explicitly given withdrawals as well, so I don't know what that means in terms of like your theory there. Like obviously it's not a money thing, right? Holding trademarks, not huge. The company Disney, all they do is hold trademarks pretty much. That's most of their stuff. But like they were expressly abandoned by Marvel, so I don't know if someone got mad and said just get rid of them or something in a meeting. Like we don't want them, get rid of them. We don't want it.
Maybe this is the psychological component of kind of trimming the fat and doing less and making better movies. Like by throwing out the Nomad trademark, it's like we're not doing that Disney Plus Steve Rogers Returns the Infinity Stones show. That's just going to bog down everything else. We're trying to move forward. So toss it. I don't want anyone.
We've renamed it. Get rid of the old names. No, I'm kidding. But they did keep Avengers Eternity War as a title. So that's going to tie into our next topic here about these. So there's been rumors. Nothing has been confirmed. So let's just go and get that out of the way. That Daniel Desencretin has amicably left Avengers Kang Dynasty as a director. And the reports are that he's going to focus on the Shang-Chi sequel and the Wonder Man series. Like, he's not leaving Marvel. He's just like, this is probably due to potential, like, more delays for the Avengers movies and scheduling changes because the quality over quantity, right? That you just mentioned.
Yeah, that's probably for the best overall.
Yeah, and so like he can't be doing that. Like no director wants to be tied up in a theoretical movie forever. So like yeah, you want your name on an Avengers movie, but at the same time, I'm sure he's getting offers like nobody else is to make other movies or wants to do other things. So can't fault him for that. But Marvel is looking for a single director for both the Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars films in this transition as well, which is kind of what we got out of the other Avengers movies, right? Endgame, Infinity War, and that comes with a possible title change, but the same direction. So, if they're going to commit to the Kang storyline, but maybe recast him or distance themselves away from the name Kang and Jonathan Majors, do they just call it Eternity War and Secret Wars?
I feel like that's one too many war movies in the title for Avengers, because we got Infinity War, then it goes Endgame, and then maybe keep it like it's obviously going to be kind of a two-parter. Yeah. So that could be a possibility. Kind of take Kang out of the name of it, and then we don't have to focus so much on the character, which has been kind of rumored the last couple weeks to see where the Jonathan Majors stuff falls. Yeah,
and with that, like I said, the studio is still committed to the Kang storyline, but the character may be recast as a mandate from Bob Iger, depending on how this trial goes, or if the damage has already been done, right, to the name, the reputation, I guess, of Jonathan Majors. But thinking about this, I think I don't want the Russo. I'm just going. I don't want the Russo brothers back. They've not done anything good since the other two movies. I want to give them a warm up before they come back to this. But do you get a single director? Do you try to get like a duo of directors, like people who can knock this in and out?
Honestly, I think quantity is not a bad direction here. A duo to handle two, not only like one Avengers movie is already like a gigantic task, right? So I feel like do a duo and maybe. I don't know. I just feel like the dynamics between two creatives that are, professionally known to work together, right? Don't just go grab two random directors and try to put them in a room together.
Right.
But yeah.
The people who did Everything Everywhere All at Once, what are their names?
The Daniels.
The Daniels, like them, right? Like they understand time travel. They work together. I'm not saying it's them, but that would be my number one pick. If I was like given a lineup, I'd be like those guys right there.
Yeah. I mean, this isn't the right answer, but the only other duo I can think of off the top of my head would be like the Duffer Brothers. Like that would be a crazy get. I'm sure that they could get a huge payday for signing up for those two movies based on their track record.
Well, it's like the Game of Thrones duo, Benioff and Wise. I would never hire them again. They've been fired from too many things, right? Like as a duo. Phil Lord and Chris Miller always come people. They're
honestly,
duo that come to mind.
I mean, and maybe this could be like a bit of the apology for the Solo movie. We'll give you two Avengers movies. They
don't need to apologize to them, but I think they're like, hey, your methods didn't work for there. Have you matured since then? Come work with us on this big movie, kind of deal, right? Like, there are duos out there. I think that there's an opportunity to do this, and it's going to be huge to pick it.
One thing that I forgot to say I watched at the top of the show is I watched that Peacock film, Please Don't Destroy, The Treasure of Foggy Mountain, I think is what it was called, which is the comedic trio that does the digital shorts for SNL. All the shorts they do are hilarious. The movie is very, very wild. It's really hard to describe the humor, but it is really crazy. If we're going for quantity, maybe three people can direct this movie. They absolutely should not direct these two movies, but it's a funny thought.
Yeah, so I think again, people are like, oh, people are leaving Marvel, like the Kang movies in trouble. I don't think. Again, back to the point, Daniel Destin leaving to focus on his sequel and Wonder Man series is trouble at all. It's just if you're like, yeah, we're gonna hire you eventually, we just don't know when. He would probably be like, can I go work on my other stuff instead? Like, I'd like to finish that and do that, because I would love a Shang-Chi sequel well before we get to two Avengers movies, wouldn't you? Like, I think that one needs to follow up pretty soon because that was such a phenomenon in and of the moment.
There's a lot of things built up in those cosmic rings.
Yeah. Oh, and they're going to be in the What If thing coming up too. So, yeah. Anything else to add with this? I think changing the title, perfectly fine. I don't care. They've changed the titles a billion times. Didn't tell us Endgame until like 3 months before the movie came out. Was the name of an Avengers movie? It's fine. But I think nailing down a director set, and I don't know who there's writers come and go. Obviously teams of writers write these movies at this point. Getting that kind of nailed down would be important. So, but speaking of Wonder Man, the show is now part of the Marvel Studios Spotlight banner. We talked about Echo being one of those, and again, Marvel Studios Spotlight banners are shows that were probably greenlit well before everything else, and will not connect as intricately to the MCU at large. So, again, Echo is not going to affect Infinity War, right? It's just not. That's not how it's going to work. Wonder Man probably going to be the same way. We know it's got Ben Kingsley coming back as Trevor Slattery. The guy who plays Black Manta, Abdul Mateen Ya the third, I think second or third, as Wonder Man. It's more to be a insight parody, commentary on the acting, making movies as it is. So. I don't need to see Wonder Man in an Avengers movie to make myself feel whole. So I think Spotlight banners are cool things. I mean, if we're not going to get one shots, this will be fine.
Feels like just a weird asterisk of just like, you don't have to watch this unless people really, really like it, and then we'll do more with it. Yeah. Right? Like if Wonder Man ends up being so good, that it's nominated for Emmys, that they knocked it out of the park, and it's the best superhero thing that ever has landed on streaming, they will absolutely remove any sort of like spotlight banner thing to it, and they'll put them in Secret Wars. Yeah. They'll put them at the front of the pack, with everybody else. So, but that probably won't happen.
But as long as they don't write a story that makes you have to you need, again, a lot of people complain you have to watch Captain Marvel, WandaVision, and the Miss Marvel to understand the Marvels. Well, I don't feel like you're gonna have to watch a lot to go into Wonder Man, probably, right? So or watch Wonder Man to understand where Miss Marvel is in 2 years. So I'm okay with this. We'll see how it goes. Echo's our first foray into this. We already know that was a hot spot during all the production issues a couple years ago, so we'll see if maybe this one can come out the other side better for that. Lastly, Daredevil Born Again, the show that kind of kicked off all these news, rumors, theories, and stuff like that. The previous version, before it was scrapped, not scrapped completely, but mostly reworked, would have had Bucky Barnes, the Winter Soldier cameo in there. And
I haven't really... It's been a minute since I've thought about Bucky.
Yeah, they don't know if it was supposed to be like, hey, he's on trial for like his war crimes as the Winter Soldier. I'm like, not everyone needs to be on trial for their crimes 50 years ago in this thing. So please don't do that. But it's unclear if that's the plan still going forward. He could still be in here, maybe. We don't know. So he's very ground level, I think. I know he's been in Avengers movies. He's very powerful, but like he still doesn't really have any other big abilities at the end. I mean,
honestly, that's like a cool duo, a team up that I haven't really thought about. Right? I would say the power skills and levels are very even in a sense of like the type of adversaries that they could come up against. Just give me some better Bucky Barnes stories. Yeah. Compared to the last thing that I had to watch.
Well, he came in. I mean, he had a really good build up through the 3 movies, and they just don't know what to do with him. I'm like, well, then just retire him, right? Like that's fine. You don't need to keep going. Sebastian Stan's a great person, but maybe make it. I know he's coming up in Thunderbolts, but I'm like, maybe let him use his powers. Let him be the badass he was before. He doesn't need to be like tortured with his past crimes all the time. But I agree. No hallway is safe if Daredevil and Winter Soldier are coming at you.
Yes, Winter Soldier will punch through any drywall in the hallway.
That's right.
And Daredevil will do a backflip off of it.
Concrete blocks all abound, man. They'll take you out. But that's the episode for this week, Mike. It was a pretty good one. I enjoyed this one. This was a good bit of notes, bit of news here. But if people want to know what you're up to, what you're doing, where can they get you at, buddy?
Yeah, they can find my webcomic at liferewardsrisk.com. Chris, if people want to catch up with you, maybe see what you're eating on Turkey Day.
Oh, my gosh. I'm just going to drop it out there. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone beforehand, but I am making my own air fry turkey again, a little 3-pounder.
Oh, you can fit a turkey in an air fryer?
I've got the one that looks like an oven. It's like a square one with the rotisserie spit in it.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So we're gonna put a 3. I got it in the freezer. It's gonna come out in the fridge tomorrow and thaw out. I've got my brine ready, Mike. I'm surprised we didn't talk about food at the beginning of the show, but we'll cover that next week. But yeah, you can find me on Instagram, Valdan87, VALDAN. Or video game systems of the same name. Some people added me on there. Thank you. We'll play games sometimes if we're on the same game. But if people want to know more about the show, where they can get all their stuff, come back in a couple of weeks for Aquaman, I think is coming out. Reviews. And every week where we listen, where can I get all them goodies at?
Oh, I get to do the ending of the podcast with an audience. My wife is in the room with me.
Oh my gosh.
laying on the bed. I think she's waiting for me to wrap up.
Boy, that sounds
show.
really suggestive. Let's get you wrapped up here. So
Now, as always, please visit superheroslate.com. That's the best place to find everything that we do here at Superhero Slate. To get our awesome show notes, so if you want to see the trailers that we talked about, head on over to superheroslate.com. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, wherever else you love to listen to find podcasts like ours. We got merch at superheroslate.com/store. We love our fans of the show. Please reach out. Let us know what you think about the trailers that we talked about. Are you excited for What If Season 2? Let us know, and we love our super fans. So if you want to be a super fan of the show, babe, what are they supposed to do? Do you know what they're supposed to do if they want to be a super fan? Do you listen to the end of our podcast every week?
Comment, like, subscribe.
Comment, like, subscribe. Okay, that's what my wife says.
well,
Comment,
that's pretty.
like,
I mean, we
super
do that,
fan.
but yeah, she's close.
No, just for this week. If you do that, you can be a super fan.
Yeah,
Just this week.
yeah. It's our Thanksgiving special. It's our Black Friday deal. There it is. Our Black Friday deal for all super fans.
Yeah.
So-
I mean, honestly, she just gave you more work. I usually just say, just share the show with a friend or share a show with a buddy. But now, no, you got to like, comment, and subscribe. Do all of those things right now. And I don't know how you comment on a podcast if you're listening like on Spotify. So good luck.
Leave us a review then. Leave
Yeah.
your comment and review. You can do it right in your podcast or app of choice. But awesome. Well, Mike, anything else other than that? Have a happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah. Enjoy your turkey day, everybody.
That's right. We will see you guys next week.
Bye.